Greetings, Udacity. Hi, I'm Tom Folo. I'm an AWS solution architect, and I'm also SysOps administrator qualified, or certified, and I'm also a CISSP, so I do have a little bit of a security background. Now, I used to work for AWS. I was working in the EC2 section, and that's where I really started to understand how AWS works behind the scenes. But I had to take these same classes and go through the same training regimen in order to understand how AWS works on the operational and on the customer side. So what I wanted to give you a sense on is how important white papers are in your understanding of AWS. And what I would try and do before you take your associate exam and as you build up your certifications is at the end of your studies, go through some of the white papers. And the way that I look at the white papers is these are best practice information that AWS has put together so that when you go out there and work on your real world systems, you don't make some of the same mistakes that people have in the past. So I'm going to go over one of them that I think is the most important for the associate as well as the foundation of your time at AWS. Now, the way that I would approach this white paper is to start off with one area at a time. This white paper has 5 different areas, and it's going to be confusing if you've never looked at this before, but go on and sometime during the day look at one of the areas, then the next day go back, pick another area, and start to think about it. Then when you go out and you're actually on site or you're getting your job interviews, you know you're going to get asked questions on job interviews. Let me pause. I've been through quite a few job interviews, mostly for AWS security architect, but they're going to ask you off the wall questions. But if you can pull in some of the information from the white papers, I think that'll blow the folks away because that it gives you street creds. You know, most people they could ask you, they aren't going to ask, well, how many different machine types can you make with an EC2 system? No, they're going to ask you questions like, how would you, given this type of system that needs to do this, how would you architect that in AWS? You've got to create servers. You have to think about whether you want a NoSQL database, relational database. You're going to go through all these trade-offs. You'll build this system design in your head, but bringing in some of the stuff in the well-architected framework, having that in your head will help you come up with better systems and also can give you better street creds. So let me talk a little bit about the AWS well-architected framework. There's 5 pillars that you will find, and I'll go over the pillars, and then we're going to focus on one of them, okay? Just for, a little bit. So remember, the reason we're doing this is to get street creds and understand what's going to happen after your certification when you get on site and you're an architect or an engineer and you want to design the system the best way possible. Okay, so let's talk about the 5 pillars. There's 5 different pillars. Each pillar is going to help build a strong system. And the 5 pillars are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance, efficiency, and optimization, cost optimization. You follow those, you're going to be able to build a well-architected system. And a well-architected system, let me kind of lead to the punchline a little bit early, needs to cost very little. One of the main design goals is to keep your costs down. AWS isn't trying to make money by gouging their customers. They want their customers to be happy with the solutions they implement. So let's take a look, and you can download the white paper for the well-architected framework. Just Google that, or you go to the AWS site and you can look under the resources. But I'd say Security is one of those that if you're a security person, you're going to definitely need to understand this and then find some other white papers. Okay, and let me see, security has a security best practices guide. I would go with that. For people into DevOps, you're going to want to look into other references. Don't just rely on understanding code deploy, code pipelines, and code commit. If you could know everything backwards and forward about that, but if you don't understand that bigger picture at the architecture level, I think you're going to be less than successful. You're going to make mistakes and you're going to look less professional when you get to your job. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the security pillar. Now, the security pillar comes with the understanding that you're trying to protect your design in the cloud. And security in the cloud is a little bit different than security on the local premises or even the private data center. You're going to have to understand how to implement solutions and how to build a multi-pronged approach on protecting your system. Okay, so one of the design principles we're going to go over is implement a strong identity foundation. I think this is the most important one. So how do you want to put credentials? Do you want to use a federated database, or do you want to hand jam and enter every user and their password in by hand? The other thing is how many accounts you use. You can use different accounts. That's a key one. Enable traceability. If you have AWS running, you have so many tools to enable traceability. You can use, logs. There's different metrics you can capture using CloudWatch. So there's quite a few tools. I'm not going to go over those. Those are covered in the SysOps in depth and also in the security exam. Okay. Now, how many layers do you want to put security in? Do you put it only at layer 3, layer 1, layer 2, layer 7? Well, you want to try and put layers of security at as many places as you can. So if you can put it at the edge, the network, if you can put it in the VPC, if you can use guard duty, you want to try and use as many as you can. If you have your EC2 that you're running, if you're using, IaaS, then you're going to want to put it on your EC2. If you can avoid using EC2 entirely, that's even better because then you're kind of avoiding some of the security problems. Okay, another thing you can do is automate your software security best practices. So let's say, for example, somebody turns off CloudTrail. Well, you can have events capture that and send it to a Lambda function. One of the great things about AWS is being able to monitor all these different events on your system. Send it to Lambda, have Lambda write a Lambda function to turn CloudTrail back on. If somebody decides to turn off the firewall on VPC, you write your own events. And a lot of this code is already in GitHub. There's a lot of stuff people have already done, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel and write all this by scratch. Although, hey, it's good practice, but it's very simple code. Okay, protect data in transit and at rest. So when you're sending data through the different things, let me step back one bit. You want to try and classify your data, and if it's all open, free to the public, sure, you don't have to protect it, but most of the time you're going to find you have sensitive data, and you're going to want to control it at different levels. So you might have one data that gets a special bucket that only certain users can have, another data level that gets another bucket that more people have access to. So you try and think that through. You want to keep people away from data. You don't have to have people touch the data or process the data using services that they create. You should be able to isolate the data as much as possible and only have limited access when it needs to get done. Finally, you prepare for incidents or security events. You can run simulations and tools. Netflix has a tool called Chaos Monkey, and they have Chaos Gorilla that can throw different problems in their AWS environment. So it's pretty cool. It's out there and it gets done. So that was the security best practices in the AWS well architected framework. Take a look at the others, and I hope this helps you.